We are live. Yay!
Yay!
Yay! Okay, hello everybody. Hello Beth from Cloudy, Texas. Hi everyone. Thank you for joining us today on this Monday morning. If you're in the States, if you're watching from elsewhere, let me know where you're from or type llama in the chat. Also let me know if you can see me and hear me okay, if the audio and video is okay on your end. I'll wait for the chat to kind of go off here. Sometimes there's a lag. Hi, Kitty. Yay. Okay, great. Llama. Awesome. Awesome. Good, good. Looks like we're all good here. Perfect. Well, my name is Marian. Just like I said in the chat, I am your host today, and I have the wonderful Roxy here with us, Roxanne, or Roxy is.
Hi.
A great food illustrator who will be demonstrating her gouache process with a food illustration today. So just to reiterate that this demonstration is not a step-by-step tutorial. That is for the mini workshop, which you can definitely sign up for, and I will post that link into the chat throughout our demonstration here today. So what we're going to do here is just to have Roxy show us her magic, show us how she does her process for the hour. And if you have any questions for Roxy at all about her inspiration or her technique or what have you, please put them in the chat and I will ask them to her. You can all caps the word question and then type your question in the chat so that I can see it clearly. And then we do these free online demos every day. So subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on your notifications to stay up to date and be alerted when we go live next. Our next one is actually later today with Jerry Longa, who will be doing modern botanical illustration in watercolor and gold ink. And that will be at 7 p.m. Eastern time. Okay. All right. Okay. So if you have, oh, hi. Okay, great. No worries, Kitty. I just looked at the chat now and I'm just reading all the comments here. Good, good. Glad to hear and see that the video and sound is all good. So that's great. If you have any other artist friends who would be interested in food illustration, I would encourage you to share today's link so that they can join us as well. We are here for the hour. So even if they're late, we are of course, would love to have them show up with us and watch Roxy's demonstration today. And then we have our feedback form here. As you know, if you've been here with us for a bit, we have a survey form that we'd like you to fill out if you have a couple minutes to spare. This just lets me and Roxy know what we're doing today that is doing really good for you, or if there's any room for improvement. Any feedback and kudos is greatly appreciated. And I'll share that link a couple more times. So if you've got a minute to spare to fill that out, we really appreciate it. We do read every feedback form that we get. And then, we want to say anything else here? I'm just looking at my notes. And I think that's really it. So I'll go ahead and also share the mini workshop that I mentioned earlier. It is on July 30th is when we schedule to have Roxy come back and we'll do another food type of illustration. So that's that link there. If you have any questions about the mini workshop as well, please let me know in the chat and I'd be happy to go through it with Roxy. Okay. Okay, I think I've talked enough, so I'm going to bring it on over back to Roxy here. Roxy, why don't you take it from here? Let us know what we're doing today.
Okay, so today we're going to be doing one of my favorites. It's really special for me just because it was one of the first few illustrations that I did in the past when I started, back when I was just starting konbini. Well, konbini really is a Japanese term for convenience store. So whenever I see a convenience store, I love looking at all their products when I was back in Japan. So that's what really inspired me to do packaging-inspired illustrations. And Pocky is one of the first few ones that I've done for the brand. And yeah, so let's get started. This is pretty much already a finished outline for what we're going to draw today, just so we can get that part out of the way. My materials today, this one is actually an Etchr watercolor block in cold press. This one is around E4 size, so it's pretty big. And then for my coloring equipment, I have this really gargantuan Mayahimi gouache, which is really big. It's 54 color. But we're just pretty much using, I'm just going to bring out this color card. We're just going to be using pretty much this ones on the red side for the box. And then we're going to be using like this earth yellow for the stick, and a bit of then the ochre and burnt umber for the chocolate. So just gonna keep it real simple here, just so you can really show how it would look like. Should look like something like this. Yeah. So there.
So I posted the link of the reference photo in the chat. There is also in our description box if you would like to take a look at it and see how Roxy takes that reference photo and does her painting. We also got comments about how people love Pocky and that we're all probably going to go to the Asian market to get some Pocky here after today.
Yay! Just like me. Although I really love Pocky, like all the packaging that I've done, I think most of I have a lot of Pocky illustrations just because it's really fun. Like all their designs are really cute, and it's just really fun to draw them, a lot of them. So yeah. When I draw, actually, I don't really use black. I'm not really a big fan of doing blacks. If you browse through my artworks, they're pretty much very colorful. And if I'm drawing values, I'm just going with darker shades of that color instead of going black. And then whenever I draw packaging illustration, I tend to study like a light source, so that also applies here. I really observe those kinds of details too, just so even if you're doing it on a 2D sort of level, there's still it doesn't look flat. It doesn't really look that flat. So I'll probably start with the background first because this is the more like labor intensive part of the illustration. So where do I start? Maybe I should start in the clearing. When I draw also, it tends to have a sort of like, I stay away from the edges first. I draw those later, just because like if you study like a packaging sort of thing, they have like parts where you have that where the light shines.
The highlight.
So yeah, so I tend to just like keep that white first, and then I just draw over it later. This one I'm using the cherry red, the vermeil. So
this is just straight from the pan. You didn't mix it or anything. Yeah.
I'm gonna try like not to mix too much for this one, just so we can have like, I want to show how it's different from doing watercolor. The gouache is really interesting just because it has this sort of like flat consistency compared to watercolor, which reminds me a bit of like drawing anime. If you're a fan of Makoto Shinkai, those types of illustrations, sort of like 2D, but it's still highly detailed. I'm quite a fan of those. So what's also interesting with gouache is that I'm not really that worried if I get like draw over something with my guide because it easily dries up. It's a good alternative for like that watercolor effect, but it has that you can draw over it easily.
I know we talked about your brush a little bit earlier here, but what size is this brush that you're painting
on?
Yeah.
This one is actually a Van Gogh
in
number 3.
Yeah.
So I hope it's available there. It's really, I find it that it's cheap, but also it's a lot easier for like if you want to do something detailed, it has that pointy tip. But also if you want to draw something that's like it involves a large part of space, you can easily go through it with the brush.
We got a question from Susan, who's asking, do you use this type of gouache without diluting it with water?
Sometimes what I do is that I tend to apply it as the pigment first. Like I just keep my brush wet and then I dip it on the color and then I sort of like dilute it right on the canvas because that sort of gives me more freedom where I want to put down where I really want to concentrate the color. So that's how I usually apply it. Although it's kind of different in watercolor just because it tends to be translucent when you apply it already. So it has a different technique, but not really that drastically different. That's pretty much how I apply it too.
Would you dilute the gouache if you're painting a section that's like lighter, that doesn't have as much color, maybe?
Yeah. For example, this part, I'm planning to have it this upper area a little bit lighter than this area, where supposedly it's a bit darker over here and over here. So I just let it have its normal color up here, and then I'll sort of like mix it down here. And most of the time, unless I'm doing really specific like detail work, I mix it up on the canvas just because it's I tend to kind of feel it from there if I need to add a little bit more paint over here or over there. And since it, like I said, like since gouache is really easy to draw over with other color, it's not really, I don't find it too difficult if I mess it up. So it's really perfect for people who want to just start first, take a feel on drawing using watercolor or gouache. Like, for example, I'm going to be putting like a mixture of the oriental red, the deeper red, and the vermeil. And then I just like mix it up over here. Then I just dilute it with water. Bring it wherever I need it.
I think it's interesting that you mix your colors right on the paper, right on the canvas. Because most people would want to pre-mix or whatever, make sure they get the right mixture on their palette before painting. But you have a flow where you can see what colors you'll need, and you just go ahead and mix it on the canvas and have it blend with each other. Yeah.
I tend to have a sort of freestyle kind of thing with
Mm-hmm.
how I do my color, just because I know there's a lot of food illustrators who are really more should I say they're more hyper realist.
Yeah.
But for me, I really like it when I have this sort of I have this, it still has that artwork kind of feel to
Mm-hmm.
it.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't lose that sort of feel, especially because I turn most of my illustrations into stickers.
Right.
So when I have to put them in a sticker form, they tend to get smaller.
Yeah.
So it loses a bit of those really intricate details. So when you sort of compress it, I've done something that's a bit more hyper realist. It just looks like a photograph when you turn it into a small sticker. So that's why I sort of want to keep the detail of artwork.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, so we got a couple more questions here. Roxy, if you'd like to answer them now, or
Sure.
Yeah. So Jen is asking, for your drawing, do you freehand or do you trace, especially when you're doing the logos and the lettering?
I freehanded.
Mm.
I really like the feeling of just doing. I'm a bit OC. That's why it tends to look like um, an actual logo sometimes, but most of the time I like drawing it freehand, especially when I'm drawing Japanese characters, because the Japanese characters tend to have if you really observe them, they have different widths on those edges, just because they're based off from brush strokes.
Right.
So when they turn it into actual fonts, they sort of keep those little details, and I like to put them in my illustrations as well.
Right. With that note, do you use like your rulers or some kind of straight edge to get the really straight lines when you're freehand?
The other one, the for the box, the box part, I do use a ruler for that. But everything else, although for this one, the sticks, I tend to use the ruler for this one. But how the sticks are placed, I sort of just freehand it.
Right. Yeah, if you were to tell me that you did all of those straight lines freehand, I wouldn't. I'd be very impressed. Okay. So we're about 20 minutes in, just to let you know of the time here. Yen has a pretty interesting question here too. Yen is asking, to be able to mix colors on paper, do you need to use a certain type of paper?
Oh, yes. That's why I tend to prefer papers with at least 300 GSM, because I really get my paper wet. I'm not the type of illustrator that tends to make it sort of like you wet the entire piece first. I have a bit of, I've tried that for some of my artworks, but I mostly work with dry canvas, and then I just
yeah.
and then I just work from there.
Mm.
Then just leave those sort of like
Those white edges or lighter edges, yeah.
And then I just sort of reserve those for the end.
Mm-hmm. Do you find that you have to work pretty quickly, Roxy, or is it because it's gouache, you're not too worried about drying time or, how fast you have to work or anything like that?
With gouache, I'm not really worried about it drying up so quickly.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really, and you can re-wet it and it would still have that sort of like opaque quality. So I'm more like relaxed when I draw using gouache.
Yeah.
And there, I'm drawing with a deeper shade of red for the side, just so I can have that like sort of like dimension to it after it finishes.
Yeah, I do like that you have different types of reds and it's not just one solid red for the whole box. Oh, we got people who sign up for your mini workshop. Yay, Susan, thank you for signing up. Making Roxy's day. Yeah.
I'm nervous but also excited for that.
Everyone says that. It's funny how everyone just says that. Yeah, so the mini workshop, since we're on the topic, I'll just kind of talk about it a little bit while Roxy works here. It will be, oh gosh, I just forgot what the image is. It's a pink snack. I totally spaced. Let me pull up the link here so that I know what I'm talking about.
It's an Ichigo milk.
Ah, that's right. That's right.
Strawberry milk.
Strawberry milk. That's right. It's a milk carton that you will be painting alongside with Roxy. So it's another box shape, kind of deal. But within the line of the live demo, instead this time around, you'll be painting alongside with Roxy and using slightly different colors and such, but it's still kind of like a box shape similar to this Pocky that you will be painting in the mini workshop. And it does go for 90 minutes. If you're new here with Etchr, our mini workshops go for 90 minutes. And it's an opportunity for you to interact a little bit more with the artists and to ask questions and to paint along with the artists as well. That one looks like it'll be a fun one, the strawberry milk.
It's one of my favorites too.
Yeah.
It's super cute.
I think the strawberries parts here, the little strawberries will be fun to paint.
Yes, a lot of people are really like super obsessed with cute strawberries, so I think that would be perfect.
I think you chose well. Oh, Susan, thank you for letting me know. I'll double check that page then with the with our admin team so that we can make sure that the reference photo is the correct one. Appreciate you for letting me know. Yeah, no, I'm super excited for everybody to sign up for the mini workshop. We've had a slew of food illustrators lately on Etchr, and it just makes me hungry, and I just want to go and get the food that you've been painting after I do a hosting for it.
Me too. I'll probably snack on a Pocky after this.
Probably, right?
Even if it's already 12 midnight here. Hooray to midnight snacking.
It'll literally be a midnight snack for you over there.
Yes.
All right, so we'll go back to your painting here while you're working through. Actor, do you usually start with the color of the box before you go in all the details on the packaging?
I usually go for the parts with it where it has like really big spaces, just so I can get it over with.
Right.
Just so like, and because it gives me time to prepare if I want to draw like the details, because I'm very like, I love drawing the details.
Right.
So I tend to do that last. And it's just really interesting, like once you finish like the bigger area over, you have some sort of like an idea how to go about it, how the final illustration will probably look.
Right. Oh, we got a pretty fun question here. Okay, so we'll start with the first one, which is a good question. How do you prevent the streaking in gouache, or at least minimize it when you're painting, Roxy?
Streaking, I tend to sort of like go over it again if I find it really too rough. I tend to just go look at it over once I'm done on a certain part, and then if it gets too streaky, I tend to draw over it, or I just like brush it with water so it evens out a little bit. Although I do have some sort of fascination with just making it like really raw sometimes, because I tend to just appreciate it when it looks really painterly than perfect.
Right. So the streakiness kind of adds a little bit of that painterly character for you, and you're okay with that.
Yeah. At least for me, that's what I like about it.
Right. I do find too, when I paint in gouache, if I use a round brush, it's more likely to streak because of the shape of the brush. And I don't know if you would agree with that, Roxy, which makes sense. Yeah, if you ever use like flat brushes instead, like a rectangular shape or a square shape to, for your paintings.
Most of my the ones that I really use most of the time are like something like this, which is like mop brush, or this one. But this one is more, I tend to use these more with watercolor. But with gouache, I tend to just really, this is my sort of like workhorse brushes, where I use it for everything.
Very interesting. And so the second part to this person's question is, what is your favorite Pocky flavor? Theirs is green tea.
Mine is also green tea. I love green tea.
Oh my gosh.
It's my favorite one, but I do find it quite difficult to draw it. I don't think I've done it just because I've always been like so particular about finding that box that I really want to draw.
Yeah.
Also because I think for me, capturing the color of that rich green of the matcha or the
Yeah.
green tea, it's really difficult. I find it really difficult. Like,
That's interesting. Yeah. Because it's like a bright, like, green.
yeah. And my current shades, my watercolor colors can't seem to really match those those really nice greens. So that's why it really hinders me from drawing it. I do have some illustrations that involved drawing green tea, but it always frustrates me that it's really hard to get that nice consistency of green without it looking too like electric or.
That's so funny. So we got a bunch of green tea matcha fans in the house here. I'll eat any matcha. But you're right. Yeah, I just realizing now that the color of the matcha is very a distinct green, and
yeah,
maybe people should
Sorry, I'm just gonna turn it.
Yeah, go ahead. I was just thinking that maybe paint makers should create a pigment, matcha green tea pigment, for us to use for paint.
They really have to.
Yeah. I would use it. I would buy it. Okay, so you're kind of like honing in on certain details of the lid and the box here and there.
Yeah. Just so like it has that sort of consistency, like if you look at it from a
All right, so we're about at the halfway mark, just to kind of keep up with our time here. Yeah, I do wonder too. The person is saying in the chat, wonder if it's possible to turn the matcha powder itself into paint. I don't know if it'll be archival, honestly.
Yeah,
right.
Kind of scares me. Also,
Right.
It's kind of expensive.
Right, that's true. Matcha tends to be like the really good grade matcha tends to be a little expensive. I don't know. I'd rather consume it than to use it in paint, but you might be onto something.
That's true.
Yeah. Alrighty, so you keep painting here for a bit. I'm not seeing any other questions other than comments about Pocky here. What would you start painting after you kind of lay in all the reds here of the box? Where would you go to next at this point?
I'd definitely go with the chocolate.
The chocolate
part. This is pretty detailed. I'll probably draw over this one later because it's a lot easier to.
And the logo?
These are just like these are just my guidelines after all, so I'm not really worried about drawing over them. And that's a good thing about like gouache. You can just like directly put white on top of it versus like drawing with watercolor, where you really have to sort of like
you have to leave the
yeah. So later, if I'm not really like, if I'm really going into more details about this, I'd probably like draw over it until like it's really thick. Because the quality I like about gouache is that you can draw over it over and over. That's why you can like make it into a really thick consistency, like this one, like the shadow. So sometimes like after going like one round of it, I go over it again, just so I can deepen like those spots that I feel like are a little bit too thin.
Right. So you do sometimes a second layer.
Yeah.
Right.
Once it's all dried up.
Right. Would you say that's about most that you would do then if you have to do another layer, only maybe one more layer, or do you do like 3 layers sometimes?
I just draw, I think after like 2, I tend to just check it if it's already good, like the consistency or the thickness is already like something I'm okay about.
So this was the burnt umber you said that you're doing for the chocolate?
This one is ochre.
Ochre.
This one.
Got it. And you didn't mix it with anything else. You're just using it straight.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Just
Vanellope, I think I'm saying that right. Let me know if I said that wrong. Is asking if you are a fan of any natural hairbrushes, or do you use it?
I tend to use sable.
Sable, like a
yeah. But since that's kind of like because I tend to I have a lot of followers who are on the younger side. So sometimes I also put that into consideration, those sort of materials that they can afford easily.
Right.
So I as much as possible, I try to work with materials that can easily fit their budget.
Right. That makes sense. And that's considerate of you. So I'm assuming this Van Gogh brush is a synthetic, right?
Yes. Like the most that I probably invested on was like the Raphael brushes. But they're not really as the more expensive ones either.
Right.
Because I really wanted to make sure that I don't alienate those ones who really wanted to learn using lesser expensive items.
Hey, I hope I'm saying your name right too. So Vanellope, thank you. Are you referring to the prior sketch to download in the description? If so, just let me know in the chat if that's what you're meaning, and we can discuss that. I think what this person is asking is that if you would, if you had provided the sketch for download as well as a reference for people, in addition to the reference photo.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, I did.
If you guys really want to, you can let us know, and Roxy and I can talk about it a little bit later. If we would like to provide that for you, we can update that in our description box in the video. But otherwise, in the mini workshop, I do believe you will have the sketch to download as well, in addition to the reference photo. Is that right, Roxy?
Yes.
Yeah. So for the mini workshop, you will have that sketch available for you to copy or to trace if you need to, so that you and Roxy could just focus on the painting aspect of it for your mini workshop.
Yeah, I'll definitely send it ahead of time just so everybody can download it prior to the workshop if they want to practice on it before the workshop, or if they really want to, if they want to see it prior to the workshop, they can definitely download that one first.
Yeah, sounds good. Oh man, I already blinked out on this. The color of the chocolate, somebody's asking again. You're still using the same ochre color, is that correct, Roxy?
Yes, I'm still using the same color. I'll probably use the burnt umber later to draw like the shadows of the sticks.
Okay. Is this color just called ochre in the chart?
This one is called, yes, this is called ochre.
It's just called ochre. Okay. Yep. So Vanessa, hopefully that answers your question here.
It just tends to look different, probably because like on some parts the paint has already thinned out.
Right. Yeah, there's probably more water in some parts and less pigment than in other parts.
Yeah.
Honestly, just watching you paint around all of the lettering and stuff, like I would imagine that sometimes that kind of painting would drive someone crazy. I know it might drive me crazy. So why don't you, like, I guess maybe go into that a little bit. Like this kind of painting around doesn't really bother you that much, you say?
I I really like details. I think that's why for me actually drawing or painting is really like a therapy for me.
Yeah.
It really, before it started actually as an artwork brand, I started it because I really wanted something that can take my mind out of things.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like, yeah, especially this really helped me when the pandemic started. It really helped me a lot getting my mind just wandering off of through the canvas. I really enjoy drawing all those details and the more details it has, I really enjoy it.
That's wonderful to hear that you found a way to have all of those motions, those repetitive detail work be therapeutic for you. Um, and it's not a bother to you to go into detail because you already like it to begin with. So
Yeah.
yeah. We have a person here asking about the himi gouache. Do you find that it has an odor, or is that common, or what do you have to say about that with the himi gouache? Mhm.
Actually, it doesn't have one. I've worked with some gouache paints before, and those definitely have an odor to it. But I I don't think this one has, or if ever it has, it's not really that strong.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So it's really, if you're very sensitive about smells,
Yeah.
this one doesn't really have one. At least this bigger version. I haven't really explored the smaller variants of this one.
Mm-hmm.
So that might be different. I'm just trying out like the burnt umber on some parts of the illustration
Mm-hmm.
for the sticks.
Is this for like the shadowy? I'm assuming this is for the shadowy, darker parts of the sticks.
Yes.
All right, so a time check for everybody here. We have about 10-15 minutes left for our hour. If you have any other questions about anything for Roxy, feel free to put them in the chat. All the questions have been lovely so far. So we thank you for spending your 1 hour here with us on a Monday, no less, painting snack boxes. And I'm definitely going to have to figure out how to get Pocky here pretty soon.
Actually, I have a question. Like, if you're in the States, like, where
Yeah.
do you usually get like Asian snacks?
Yeah.
Do you have to go to a specialist store to
Yeah.
buy them?
I would imagine, at least here in the States, and some places in the States have better access than most. You know, it kind of depends on where you live in the States, and it is a very big country. So more than likely, if where you live has a pretty big, like, you know, we're just going to use Asian population here since we're looking at Asian snacks, or then there's more than likely going to be a convenience store or a grocery market that has these kinds of snacks available. Where I live, we do have a few Asian market stores, and that's where we get most of our Japanese snacks and Korean snacks and other snacks. I've definitely like indulged in a lot of Japanese Kit Kats. They have a huge range of flavors, right? The Japanese Kit Kat bars.
Yes.
Including the matcha flavor, and I really love the matcha flavor for the Kit Kats. So that's that's where I go get my Kit Kats is at the Asian market. When they have it in stock, I buy a whole ton. So
And there's even like even in Japan they have this sort of like otona no, for example, matcha.
yeah,
So that means it's like adult flavor.
Adult flavor.
It's really fun. They call it adult flavor. I find it really amusing. But it really means that the flavor is bolder, and like for example, if you're talking about chocolate, then the cocoa is probably stronger.
Right.
The concentration of cocoa is a lot stronger, so it tends to have that sort of a richer taste.
Right.
I just find it so funny. Like they call it otonano.
Yeah, that is funny. Like it's like mature, mature flavor.
Yeah. I'm just gonna draw quickly over the. This one is earth yellow.
Earth yellow. Okay.
Yeah. So sometimes I also do this, like if there's too much pigment on it, I tend to blot it out with tissue. I do this for both watercolor and gouache. So sometimes, like if the color is too deep and I want to lessen a bit of those, I tend to use just blot it out with tissue paper.
Makes sense. Oh, the chat's going off here. They're all letting us. If you get a chance, Roxy, you should go back into the chat after our demo today so you can read it. A lot of people saying where they get their snacks, where they're at. But there is a question here about the ochre. If the person doesn't have ochre in their gouache palette, how do you have any idea what you can mix to make a similar color?
Usually I go mix some orange and a bit of red, and I throw in a bit, like if you have the closest shade you have to brown.
Yeah.
Just so you can achieve that warm, because like ochre is brown, but it's a warm brown. So the
color to it.
Yeah. So if you have a regular brown that's a little bit on the cool side, you have to temper that out with a warm tone. Usually I go for the I mix like the sand colors with orange, and then darken it a bit with red, just so you can get that rich brown color. But like I've said, it's really difficult. Like one of the tones that I find really difficult is the earth colors, which is like the matchas and the browns. They're really like when you find something like if you find that's my litmus test for a good product. If they have shades of brown that they really get it right, because sometimes even the more expensive watercolor brands, they don't, their brown tends to be a little bit on the grainy side, or like it has this sort of grains in them that doesn't really look that appealing to paint.
Yeah. So Vanessa, hopefully that answers your question about how to mix a close brown. Basically, you just have to figure out what the temperature of that brown is and kind of add, those corresponding colors to whatever existing brown that you have, and try and get it as close as possible. It's a good exercise in theory, to be honest.
It is.
Right? Yeah. And then Beth has a really great question here. Beth is wondering if you've ever tried Winsor Newton or Holbein gouache, because she is wondering about the color saturation you know, between the Himi gouache versus something in the tube?
Yes, actually, I like using Holbein. Holbein is one of my go-to colors when it comes to drawing with watercolor. So,
Wait, have you used Holbein gouache though?
gouache though, that's different. If I have an option, I tend to use Turner. But Turner acrylic gouache. They have it's a different brand. But personally, if I'm using Holbein, I use their watercolors rather than using gouache from them. Let's forgot this part.
Cool. Yeah, everyone says they're learning a lot from you, so this is great. Yeah, so I do want to see if we can try and get as much finish as we can. We're kind of nearing the end of our hour here. If you're okay with it, Roxy, we can go an extra, I don't know, 5-10 minutes, just so that people can see as much as they can. How do you feel about that?
Sure. I actually have another, like, if you guys want to see also, I have a finished one over here.
Oh, yes.
Of the same thing. I've also used the gouache for that. If you're really interested in seeing like how the final product goes.
I'm sure to see that, yeah. Yeah. Okay,
but
so
yes.
We'll have you paint a little bit extra, and then we'll take a look at your painting. Yeah.
Finished one.
Yep. So for your benefit, Roxy, I'll read some comments here about where people get their snacks. If you're
please.
Yeah, there are more options in California, so you can basically get Pocky at any grocery or liquor store. But there are also Asian markets. Susan says that she gets hers at H Mart. I don't know if you've heard of H Mart, but it is a pretty well-known chain of grocery stores that kind of specialize in Chinese, Japanese, and Korean groceries. I don't believe we have an H Mart here in Utah, but we do have similar big Asian grocery markets, which is where I get my snacks too. But thank you for sharing, everybody. That's really interesting to see where people get their niche little snacks. In the Philippines, Roxy, or is that where that's where you're at, right? In the Philippines.
Yes.
Is access to these kinds of snacks common, or easy to get to? I would imagine.
Yes. We have several, I think, Glico imports from Indonesia as well, aside from Japan. So everywhere you go, it's a lot easy to get yourself a Pocky snack. But it really depends. Like for me, I tend to go for the Japanese ones more than the other imports from another neighboring countries. So I tend to go to the bigger grocery stores where they carry a lot of those Japanese snacks imported directly from Japan. Or they even have like some people here have a specialized, like if you want to buy something from Japan, you can order them through Instagram, and then after a month or two it comes to you. They ship it off to you. So if you're really like if you're looking for specific types of Pocky snacks, that's what we tend to do. But most of the time it's easily available wherever we are in the city at least.
Yeah, makes sense. Beth has a follow-up question about the Turner gouache and the Himi. Yeah. I guess does both the Himi or Turner, do they easily stay wet, and does it come in an airtight container?
Oh, okay. So the Himi gouache is my only probably bit of problem here is that if you remove the foil out of the Himi gouache and you work in an open area, it tends to dry up real quick. So they have this. This is like some sort of moisturizer that you have to keep on spraying, or sometimes you just use water to just really make the surface wet most of the time when you do your work. But I highly suggest, if you're getting like a big piece of Maya Himi gouache, that you keep the foil tops on it.
Yeah.
So because it's not airtight, so it tends to dry up pretty easily.
Got it. Okay. Well, hopefully that answers your question there, Beth. Okay, so I'm just kind of looking at a chat to see if there are any other questions or comments that I missed. If for anyone watching would like to see more Roxy painting box snacks, I would, there's a link for the mini workshop. It is $6 US, and you will be exploring how to paint easily foods and still life illustrations with the Himi gouache, but I imagine you can use any gouache that you have to get the same effects.
Yes.
Yeah, and it will run for 90 minutes if you're new to Etchr's mini workshops, and that just allows for extra time to ask questions to the artists or have them kind of go over a process very slowly. And I'm sure it'll be a great time. You will be painting a strawberry milk container. It's looking very adorable in that. And I will double check the reference photo on that, Susan. It looks like it is the Pocky, the Pocky reference photo. So I will make sure the admin gets that updated. But yeah, we hope to see you at the mini workshop. It'll be a fun one.
I'll probably show them like how it tends to look after.
Okay, yeah.
So this is how I tend to end up with if I finish it. After a while, I draw like several layers, but I tend to make sure that there's still areas where you can see that it's a bit light.
Yeah.
Because this one I tried like earlier, I tend to make it real dark over this area, just so to make it seem like the light is coming off on this part. And then this is kind of different from the reference photo, but that's my own take on it. Pretty much how I draw the sheen. If I make it some sort of on a smaller scale, it still retains that artwork type consistency, which is really important for me, so that it doesn't just look like an ordinary picture if you put it on a small sticker.
Right.
And then I also don't draw outlines, so the white parts that sort of like gives it that quality of dimension already, instead of drawing outlines for the illustration. And then I also I just used pretty much the colors that I used earlier. It's just richer because I had to go through it with a couple more passes.
Right.
And then yeah, the white ink for for the white gouache, I just applied it for the logo and the word chocolate afterwards. But that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because somebody was asking a question about that. If you use the pen for all the smaller lettering parts, but you just used your paint.
No. Yeah, I just use the paintbrush on it,
Mm-hmm.
and then I just like freehand it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the tip on this paintbrush is quite pointy, so that you could do
Yeah,
those. Yeah.
that's why I prefer working with this,
Mm-hmm.
just because it can go really thick if I want to. I still have a lot of control,
Mm-hmm.
but also I can go like really small details like this one.
Mm-hmm. So to answer your question, Jen, as long as you have like a really nice pointy brush, you can do lettering that are tiny like this. So it goes down to a brush that you have. But I'm sure you could use a pen too if you need to.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
If I have to work with a pen, I think I have one here. There you go. This is what I use.
Mm-hmm.
This is a Uniball Sigma rod.
Yeah.
So that's what I use if I have to draw on top of things without the aid of a brush. So maybe that would help also.
Okay. Great. So I think we're just gonna slowly wrap up here. I posted a few links in the chat and answered a couple or made a couple of comments here. I did post the live demo survey link again. I posted that earlier in the chat. But if you really enjoyed your time here with Etchr and with Roxy here today, please fill out that form. It takes a minute. We really appreciate your time for you to do that. And that just allows us to read the feedback and let us know what we're doing well and what we can do better. And for Roxy as well to keep in mind what she's doing great and what she can do better as well. And then again, if you haven't already signed up for Roxy's mini workshop, all the information is on that link right there. And to reiterate, you will be painting a strawberry milk box container. And Roxy will be able to do a little bit more step-by-step instruction with you guys there as well. Okay. And subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already. Turn on your notifications. We will have another live demo later today. Thank you, everybody, for your time. There's a lot of thank yous here in the chat. Thank you, Roxy. This was really great. Thank you so much for breaking this down with us. I know we couldn't quite get you to finish, but I still felt like we got a lot of value out of this. Yeah. Do you have any?
Thank you so much, everyone. I really enjoyed being able to draw in front of you. I'm a bit nervous, but I'm really happy that I was able to do this with Etchr and to be able to share just about how I work and how special drawing conveni items is for me. I hope I'm able to impart those feelings with you as well, and that you'll be able to take something from this and draw just pretty much these things, especially if you love Japan.
Yeah.
This would inspire you to draw and take a look at your favorite food item and draw them also, so that you can just like look at them every time and feel hungry.
Hungry and happy,
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much, Roxy. I believe everyone did get that from you, and we're so thankful to have you here on Etchr and to share with us your love of the food and snacks and and Japanese convenient snacks. We'll look forward to your mini workshop. We're very excited for it. And for everybody else who's watching, again, thank you so much for spending your hour with us. We're going to go ahead and sign off now. Have a good rest of your week. Please stay safe out there. It's still kind of a little gnarly out there. So please stay safe, and we'll see you all around for your next live demo and next mini workshop. Okay. Goodbye, everybody. We'll see you around next time.